Mine is the only voice you
Wow.
hear.
What have I been doing?
Lay down my autonomy.
After that, it got very dark very quickly.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Cults to Consciousness. My name is Shalise Ansola. I'm your host today, and we are talking about Jehovah's Witnesses even further. I brought back someone who we just had on. If you have not seen her interview, you're definitely going to want to go watch it after this. We are talking about what it is like being shunned by your parents because of a religion that tells you to do so. So thank you so much for joining us, Bethany.
Hi, Shalise. Thanks for having me back on.
Of course. And guys, if you are new to Bethany's channel, she has a whole thing going talking about Jehovah's Witnesses and her experience. Make sure you go subscribe to that right now or after. And all the links are in the description for that, so you can go check it out. Stop the Shunning. You guys actually recommended her to me when I was like, hey guys, who are your favorite ex-J dubs? And so many people were like, Bethany, stop the shunning. So we reached out right away, got the interview, and people are resonating hard with your interview, Bethany. I don't know if you've had time to read the comments, but it's like over almost 700 comments, I think, on your video in just a day and a half.
Over 700. No,
Yeah.
wow. And
Yes. It's wild. I think, well, it's not wild. It makes sense because a lot of people are resonating with the psychological harm and trauma that comes with being in a high control group and just how painful it is to be separated from your family for arbitrary rules that were set by some random dude a few hundred years ago. And so we wanted to dive into that deeper today with you about what it was actually like being shunned by your parents just for questioning the religion and wanting to know more answers and being upset with it, and how it's affected you today. So before we get into that, though, I think it's important for context for anyone who hasn't seen the first interview yet, just to give a little synopsis of your story. So growing up Jehovah's Witnesses, you're born and raised in the religion. You were in it, going along with the motions, devout because that's kind of just what you were supposed to do or what you felt like you had to do, but always had a sense that something was off. So let's get into what it was like, why you decided to leave, and kind of what was making you question.
yeah, I'll try to be concise.
I know it's like we did a whole interview, so you can just, they can go watch the long version, the juicy version.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure. I
do
mean,
your
it's
best.
just I'll try. Sorry, everyone. I apologize in advance. No, it's you're born. I was born into the Jehovah's Witnesses. My parents are very devout, and I had good things in my life. I didn't have some scary, horrible childhood, but I was raised with in a very destructive, toxic ideology that was very isolationist. If you were not a Jehovah's Witness, you were possibly dangerous. It's not a life worth living. Jehovah's Witnesses, they have a slogan like I'm loving it or just do it. They say we have the best life ever. So, um,
Wow.
so you have some people, you have some Jehovah's Witnesses who grow up in it. They don't really think about it, or they digest it and they digest the doctrine. They believe in it. They like being a Jehovah's Witness or whatever. There's those types of Jehovah's Witnesses. They do it and they don't think anything of it until like something hits them when they're 50 and then they wake up. It's called waking up. So they wake up and they're like, "Oh my God, I've been in a cult this whole time," and they're angry and their whole worldview shatters. But like you were saying, Shalise, in the beginning, for me, the Jehovah's Witnesses call themselves the truth. They believe that everyone else is wrong, and if you're, yeah, and it's not like uh, truth with a capital T, like every other Christian denomination is wrong,
Hmm.
and yeah. So that's enormous pressure, and so I'm being told my whole life it's the truth, it's the truth, it's the truth, it's the truth. So it's like it's just my circumstances and what I'm born into. I know nothing else. So I'm like, okay, it's the truth. But that doesn't mean that I fully 100% bought in something felt off. It felt very canned and manufactured, and I was being told I'm happy. Aren't we so happy?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we the happiest people on earth? Yada yada. And I'm thinking, I'm doing this. I'm trying to cram this into a small small answer, but like you go through the motions your whole life, and like I said, some people don't question it; they really believe it and buy in. But I, the whole
Mm-hmm.
time, from birth through my 20s, was like, okay, it's the truth. It's what I should do to save humanity. It's the right thing to do. So that's why I feel like Frodo taking the ring to Mordor. I'm such a nerd, Lord of the Rings nerd. It's like I have this task. I have to save people. I have to do this thing, but I wasn't happy. And actually, being a Jehovah's Witness, the mind games and the manipulation, the systematic indoctrination. It's not just church where you kind of, and this to anybody who goes to church who's watching this is like, I'm offended by that. I don't care how you worship. I'm not judging you, but it's not like go to church and you have your friends and you hear a good message and that's your church. This is like consumes your whole life. They make rules for
Mm-hmm.
every single part of your life.
Well, that's
So
why
it's
we call it
all,
a high control group. Sorry to interrupt you.
yes,
Like, I think
no,
it's
please
important to
do.
mention that
Yes,
the groups that we cover are not groups that you just show up on Sunday to. They're high
right.
control groups, high control religions. Some
Thank
may call
you.
it a cult, some may call it high control group, whatever
Right.
floats your boat. It doesn't really matter. It just means all consuming. And so when
Yes.
you leave it, it's not just, I just don't go to that church on Sunday anymore. It's, I lost my friends, I lost my community, I lost my family. And so that's why we're here talking about this today, because this is just, it completely flipped your life upside down, because one moment you have this loving family, or at least you thought, even though you were worried this whole time, if I were to leave, would they still love me? If I were to leave, will they still care for me? Will I still be their child? Will they still want to have a relationship with me? And that was a very real fear for you, and I think a huge reason that kept you in. And so when you told them, "Hey guys, I don't believe this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this anymore." What was that conversation like? Did you actually tell them that you don't believe the doctrine, or did you tell them, I'm not really going? Or, because I know you started finding things out in succession about the religion itself, doctrinally speaking, or like what's going on behind the scenes, all the CSA cover ups and the bite model and everything. But what was that conversation initially like?
Yeah, so breaking it to my folks, they're not stupid. I know that's a thing with cults. They, oh, well, who would fall for that or whatever. They were born into it. My parents are in their 70s. They've been indoctrinated from birth themselves, but they're not stupid. They gave birth to me. They could see that I was sick because I mentioned in the interview that I developed an eating disorder. I developed a lot of
Yeah.
self-destructive tendencies. And the thing about this that I want to be clear, it's not mom and dad, I blame you. It's because of you. You did this to me. I'm saying the organization and the ideology and the indoctrination is making me sick. I'm not asking you to stop being a Jehovah's Witness. I may not agree with it, but I love you. Do your thing. Just don't shove your
Mm-hmm.
ideology down my throat. And I'm your daughter, desperately coming to you saying, I'm sick. I feel like I'm going insane. I've been living with this threat over my head my entire life that if I ever leave, I'm going to be shunned by my family. I'm going to lose my family. Like, no child should be threatened with that. And then your whole life is a lie. Like, your whole relationship with your parents is just built on this threat. So, like, everything's great. We look great. Everything's fine. Everything appears okay. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Just double checking. So everything appears okay. Um, but really it's all fake because the second you're authentic and really stand up for yourself, then the true colors come out. And it's not even true colors like they're evil people. It's just like, oh, I see where your loyalty really truly
Priorities.
lies. Your priorities, exactly. Like really, you are really willing to shun your own child. Like she's a
Yeah.
murderer. So that's um I don't know if I answered your question, but that's kind of the situation.
Can you explain to people who aren't familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses what the policy is for shunning. Who could be shunned, for what reason, and what does that actually look like to be shunned?
Sure. So I know, yeah, so that's a good question. Some people think of shunning like they think of the Amish, maybe, and there's stories of the Amish. People don't re connect the dots with Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, what do you mean shunned? Like awkward dinner conversation? No, 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 like you are dead. So Jehovah's Witnesses have an internal court system, just as a refresher. They have an internal judicial system. So no matter what you did in the outside world, Shalise, if it was real, I mean, if it was legal and it's okay, nobody would bat an eye at it. If you break one of their rules, and that this is a whole topic that could take much longer than a 1 hour live stream. But if you break one of their rules or they deem you unacceptable or in their eyes, they just there's you heard of office politics, there's congregation politics, and they want to nail you to the wall. If you get in trouble for something and you get disfellowshipped, now they're calling it removed. It's just shuffling the papers on the desk. It's just a game of semantics. So what? You're still disfellowshipped. If you're disfellowshipped, then the congregation for years, for decades, would treat you like you were dead. So my brother got disfellowshipped when he was 16 years old. I think he smoked a cigarette or a joint or something. Who cares? He's a teenage boy, like stuff you experiment with as a teenager. Anyways, somebody ratted him out. He got disfellowshipped. My brother was 16. We're 10 years apart, so I was 6 years old. I loved my big brother. Was very close to him, loved him. And so imagine I'm 6 years old and I'm in the, so let me paint you a picture. You're in the Kingdom Hall, their place of worship. Okay, so they don't call it church, they call it the Kingdom Hall. And I see my brother, mind you, I'm 6 years old, la la la. I see my brother in a suit and a tie, looking like death, sitting in a corner chair. So there's not pews, but seats. A congregation full of, an auditorium full of individual seats. It's not pews. So he's like in a corner seat in the back and he's like has to keep his head lowered and like not make eye contact with anybody. And imagine a room full of 150 people who are supposed to be one big happy spiritual family, and they're shunning this kid because that's essentially what he was at 16. And I'm looking at it going, why are they shunning my brother? And then I saw it happen to other people. I'd say, Mama, and I'd poke her on the arm and say, why can't I talk to sister so and so? She's disfellowshipped, and she would have to explain. To my mom's credit, she she didn't fully agree with that. She respected the rules and you kind of toe the line, but she didn't treat people like they were dirt just because they were disfellowshipped. That's just a side note. But which is the irony now that I'm completely shunned for 8 years. But it's because I left of my own volition and I'm vocal and I really stood up for myself. It was more of a loss of control and how dare you? And oh my God, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to make us look terrible and you're an apostate now. So it's different. But so disfellowshipping, people will shun you, like not talk, don't speak to them, don't look them in the eye. They're dead. And then when they get reinstated, like, okay, in reinstated, I'm not just talking about you get to hang out and just wait to be reinstated. You have to go to the meetings constantly, show your remorse and penance and kind of grovel and put in a formal letter and sit before three elders in a back room and they just tear
Mm-hmm.
down your spirit. And then when they deem you like, oh, have they cried enough? Have they do all right, we're going to talk amongst ourselves and then we'll let you know. And then the person has to sit out of the room for like an hour just waiting on pins and needles. Am I going to be reinstated so I can be treated like a human again? You walk back in the room, oh, well, you're reinstated. And then it's like a switch. Everybody just goes, bing, oh, so glad you're back. Hi. And then the love is immediately comes back. So love in
Jeez.
Jehovah's Witnesses, the love in Jehovah's Witnesses can be immediately withdrawn and then just like a switch, just turn right back on. And you see that just like, I just observed that growing up and I was like, this is bizarre. This is
Yeah.
inhumane and
Well,
inauthentic.
yeah, it's
So
cruel. It's
it's
cruel. And there was
cruel.
something I
It's
wanted to
cruel.
read from one of your, or from your video. Someone commented that I thought was important. And then we're going to get to questions. So, guys, if you're watching us live, hey, thanks for being here. Drop your questions in the chat. Jonathan will be bringing them up for us in just a second. So, one of the comments said, someone, let's see, shunning someone for committing a small infraction, but not shunning someone for CSA or SA is insane. So, we're not going to get into this because it's going to be like a huge long side note, but just so people understand the complexity of this, her brother is shunned for smoking a cigarette, meaning no one can even acknowledge his existence. But then people who were known, uh, what's the word I can say without getting censored? Pedos, I think is a safe YouTube word, were just shuffled to other congregations with no accountability, no police force called because of these stupid arbitrary rules that we won't get into, the two witness rule, but it's just so backwards and makes no sense. And now we're talking about completely cutting off your own child, not speaking to them because this organization tells you that you cannot. So it's just so backwards. And before we continue this, let's jump into some questions. Prudence, your previous interview meant so much. Oh, that's so nice.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm glad.
Hey, Bethany, do you have a relationship with your brother today? That's a great question, Julie.
No, I
Few
don't.
people want to know.
Unfortunately, no. My brother actually went back, so it's really
Oh,
it's
no, we didn't. No. Oh,
yeah, he
that's a
went
whole
back.
other situation where,
Oh, I
wow,
can't
and I've
even
seen it
yeah,
too.
I can't even
I've
wrap
seen
my
it
brain. I can't even
too
begin to start on that. No.
in Mormonism where people leave. And it's happened to me where I've had around the same time that I left, one of my friends was with me, and I was like, "Look at all this stuff! Oh my gosh, this is crazy! Did you see this? Did you know about this? Did you know about this history thing?" And she's like, "What? No way!" And then she went back in as if nothing happened, as if she didn't just learn all of this stuff, and then started judging me for my decisions once I was out. And I was like, "Girl, please! What are you talking about? It just makes no sense." I'm just like, how did you make that make sense in your head? Yeah, it's so difficult. I'm
The
so sorry
the
that
math
you've
the
had to deal
math
with
ain't
that.
mathin'.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Bethany again. Love
Oh,
it. Do you
oh,
believe the feeling
sweet.
of never being enough is something most JWs align to?
Never
The
being enough.
worthiness thing,
Oh,
not feeling enough.
absolutely. There's people who reach, so in the Jehovah's Witnesses, there's tiers of service. So you preach, you knock on doors. Let me just
Yeah.
be real quick about this. Jehovah's Witnesses, they're door knockers, and then you have to do that. But then there's also levels of like you can do more hours per month and this hours per month. And then if you want, you can go to Bethel in New York, in upstate New York. So there's these tiers, and like you hear in like Nexium, they had these sashes. So every cult has this like merit system or
Hierarchy.
reward system, hierarchy, exactly. So no matter how high up you go on the thing, there's still people that are like, I still feel worthless. I still feel like I'm never going to be enough. I don't know if that answered their question, but yeah, like that feeling that you
Yeah.
don't shake that feeling because it's never enough. You can never do enough in the organization.
Well, and the issue with that, and we
Yeah.
talk about this a lot, is they monopolize your feelings. So if you don't feel well, you think you're the problem. So even if you're at one of the highest levels, if something
Hmm.
feels off to you, maybe you're just having a hard time. Maybe you're just having a human experience of depression. Maybe something's going on in your life that's upsetting you. You don't think, oh, I'm just going through a hard time right now. You think, I must not be doing something right, or else God would be blessing me with happiness and peace. And so that's where it's so tricky. And this is in all of the high control groups, is that monopolizing and weaponizing your feelings against you creates this perfection circle, this loop of I'm not enough. And then you feel good, and then you're like, oh, I'm worthy. And then nope, something went wrong, must be my fault. So there's really no way to get around it.
Exactly. And what they do is they tear you down, and then so they tear you down, and then they swoop in to act like they saved you. So
Yep.
like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm going insane just having this mental breakdown. And I actually told my parents eventually when I finally worked up the courage. This was when at the time that I was waking up. I finally said on the phone, I was like, because if you're going to have some kind of life altering conversation, you want to try to have it in person or on the phone, talk, not just, we're in like a texting world. Everything's just like blocks of text. I'm like, let me give them the courtesy of at least expressing myself and how I feel and see how this goes. So I told them, I said, the organization, I'm sorry, but I'm struggling with dot dot dash, and it is the organization that is making me sick. Oh, no, 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 no. Now you sound crazy. You're talking crazy. You're talking crazy. No, 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 no. And you could like hear them like tag team, my parents tag team of like, let's rope her, let's get her back in. She's losing it. And it's like, no, I know myself. I'm not stupid. I know what's going
Yeah.
on. I had finally like woken up, and I was not gonna have I'm not gonna have you gaslight me. And they're indoctrinated. It's not like they're coming from a bad place. They just don't know any better. They just don't know
Yeah.
any better. So of course they're gonna flip out and try to like, oh no, try to get me back in or whatever, which
What
didn't
were
work.
those final conversations like? Was it just what you were describing, continuously trying to pull you back or expressing disappointment? Or like the last words that you spoke to your parents was it I don't want to say was it on a good note because it never is. I'll just let you
No, no, I hear you.
describe it instead of
Sure.
me keep trying.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So basically, it's this, like I said, it's not like it was a shock how I felt. They knew I was sort of, so Jehovah's Witnesses, they knock on doors, they go to meetings. If you stop doing those things, it's called fading. I'm going to just catch people up so they have some context. So once I started, I had distance. They were in Texas, and my husband and I were living in North Carolina, and we were stepping back and we were starting to wake up. I had that mental breakdown. I said, I can't go to the Kingdom Hall. I can't preach. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I have to step back. So I took a break, and in the middle of the break, I was communicating with my parents, but they could sense like, oh, she's just having a hard time. She's just having a hard time. She just needs to, she'll figure out a way to snap out of it. We're just gonna, keep texting her encouraging texts with scriptures. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize I'm like, oh, no, 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 I'm like on my way out. I didn't say that yet because I wasn't sure if I was actually going to disassociate. So disassociation is formally revoking your membership from the organization. I was just in the fading process. Some people stay in the fading process and they never put in a formal, they never formally revoke their membership in writing. They just disappear and, block people and, just move on with their life. But I was like, I'm not giving so how do I say this? My brother got disfellowshipped, this is part of the story. Disfellowshipped or excommunicated at 16. He got reinstated into the congregation. And then that did such a number on his psyche that he was out for 20 years. He was inactive. So he basically kind of faded for 20 years. But my brother always spoke highly of the organization, and he's what we call a POMI, the acronym POMI, physically out but mentally still in. So I was going to the meetings and preaching and doing the thing and having these doubts and these feelings and feeling like I'm going to break down. And my brother was, just working and moving on with life and growing up, but he was out for 20 years. And people would make comments because they're gossipy and crappy. Oh, how's your brother? Have you effing picked up the phone and called him to see how he's doing? That's right. You haven't. So I got very adamant and protective of my brother, despite the fact that he wasn't actively practicing. So I always loved him unconditionally. I always practiced unconditional love on my end to my parents and to my brother. So he was out for 20 years and then he came back. I was going somewhere with this. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So with my parents and those kind of final conversations, what was happening, Shalise, was I was thinking to myself, I'm starting to sense that my parents, and any parent who thinks they're doing the right thing and is rescuing their child, they're going to do what they feel they have to do. So I get why they behaved the way they did. I understand the
Mm-hmm.
reason behind the behavior. But they would send me like, "Oh, Jehovah loves you. We're thinking of you. Send me," and I cut them off at the knees immediately. Cut them off meaning like I said, "Please don't send me this stuff. I need a mother. Mom, please just be a mom." Because I was thinking to myself, I don't want to give my parents 20 years of false hope. That's what was going through
Yeah.
my mind. I'm thinking, oh, no, 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 I'm not going back. So I'm thinking I have to make a decision. Like I gotta be, it's not that I had to, anybody was rushing me into disassociating, but I'm thinking I want nothing to do with this organization. I'm not gonna have to like filter my conversations through to make sure that I'm walking on eggshells and fade forever. I'm like, F it, I'm done. And then I found out about the CSA cases. And so I had decided to disassociate because I was not going to give my parents, first of all, I wanted to disassociate for myself. It was empowering for me. Some people disagree, and that's totally fine. Do whatever's empowering for you. It was empowering for me to disassociate. So when I formally revoked my membership, it was like, hell yeah, I reclaimed my life. But I also knew that that was the kiss of death and that I'd never see my parents again. But it was like, I cannot pretend to be something I'm not. I'm not going to play this game. You're not going to speak to me disrespectfully. I'm setting these
Mm-hmm.
boundaries and I love you. I don't care if you're a witness. I think it's messed up, but whatever. It's your life. But I can't do this anymore. So basically, I set firm boundaries. And I mean, there's more detail to the story, but when I made it known in no uncertain terms that I'm not coming back, the warm fuzzies evaporated. We are going to remain loyal to Jehovah and his earthly organization. And, my mother, shunning is absolutely scriptural. Look up all these scriptures. Sending me 17 scriptures. Yeah, mom, I'm going to go run and read those. And
Wow.
it was just swift and done, and that was it.
It was just heartless. It was, this is protocol. And it seems like she's
It's
trying
protocol.
to justify to you, no, honey, this is what we're supposed to do. Here's all the proof. These are the reasons to back it up. But not realizing that, like you said, you just needed a mom. You just wanted her to be there for you in
Yeah,
a
mom.
motherly capacity. And she just wasn't
And she, and
capable
she,
of being both a Jehovah's Witness and a mother. It seemed like she had to
yeah.
choose one or the other.
And I honestly, I get I'm not saying the behavior is okay, but I understand the position they're in. They've been
Mm-hmm.
indoctrinated from birth. They're in their 70s. If they wake up now, their brain is going to explode. I understand
Oh,
it.
wow.
But when I noticed that they were incapable of hearing me, really hearing me. I'm not saying you have to stop being a Jehovah's Witness, but you're not going to talk over me. You're not going to treat me like a moron. You're not going to
Yeah,
speak to me this way. I refuse to be spoken to this way. I'm not going to tolerate it. When I started setting firm boundaries, it was the game had
a
changed. It was,
hard
oh,
cutoff. Yeah.
she's actually, because I don't think they thought I was going to actually leave. That's the bottom line. I don't think they thought it was just they were going to chalk it up to she's inactive. It'll be like our son who was gone for 20 years. Oh, no, no, no. I'm done and this is
Yeah.
gonna suck, but I have to just be real with you.
Yeah, it was almost like, well, if they can't contact you in the way that they want to contact you with all these Bible verses, then they just won't do it at all because, in their mind, what's the point? And they're breaking the rules
Yep.
technically. Jonathan, can you
Yeah.
bring up that comment again from Steph, talking about her experience? Because I feel like we needed to acknowledge that about her parents. Sorry to make you search for it. We're going to do some questions here too in a second. If anyone wants to leave anything in the chat. Yes, thank you. My mom died 2 years shunning me because I left the witnesses. My bio dad has dementia right now and has been put in a care facility, but no one will tell me where he is. That is so
I'm
awful, and I'm so
sorry.
sorry that you're going through that. I can't even
I'm
imagine
so
being in that
sorry.
position and feeling helpless and no one helping you. I mean, you're literally helpless, and no one should have to go through that, especially with their own family. I just wanted to
No.
make sure I acknowledged that one.
Yeah, I'm really
Do we
sorry
have
to hear that
any,
you're going through that.
yeah, do we have any questions that we want to bring up? Oh, Steph also says, Bethany's so great. I love her videos.
Oh,
I'm an
sweet.
XJW, and she speaks the truth about witnesses. I woke up at age 49 3 years ago.
Oh,
Congrats for
awesome.
being able to, yeah, to
Good.
step out. A lot of times when you're in that long, there's the sunk cost fallacy, and most
Yeah.
people aren't willing to admit that what they've been doing for so long has been either wrong or harmful or both or whatever it is for them. And so people just stay in because it's easier to keep the cognitive dissonance than to face the reality of what's been going on in your life. So I commend you for being able to do that and being willing to do that. Any questions? Question. Do you consider the courting arrangement much like an arranged marriage? Asking because I met the man I would marry at 15 and he was 21. Ooh,
Was this person a witness?
it sounds
I'm
like
missing
it.
I'm missing something. Okay. The courting
So
arrangement. I mean, it's
they,
the date their dating rules are so just, and I'm not even crapping on conservative like values or anything. That's totally fine. Your values are your values. And if you want to wait till marriage or, whatever, that's fine. But Jehovah's Witnesses are so sexually repressed. I mean, like you can't even breathe in the direction of the opposite sex. And if you're gay, man, you're really screwed. And not in the way you'd like to
mm,
be.
oh no.
Sorry. Uh-oh.
No
I
one's
just got you
technically
being honest.
screwed in the J dubs. No, it's fine.
Uh,
Let's see. Do you have another
sorry.
question? No, you're fine. Bethany, you are an
That was crass. I
inspiration.
apologize.
We do stuff all the time on this podcast. It's fine. Uncensored. How long did it take for you once you left to
Sweet.
truly leave it behind? Asks Nathaniel.
That's a good question. I was really, you can't help but be in it. Like just, it replays in your brain. I'm not a therapist, so like don't quote me on this, whatever, but I feel it's a form of PTSD. Like you just lose your parents overnight. So I was really messed up for probably 3 or 4 years. I've been out for 8, so probably 3 or 4 years, and then it was like I was never a witness. It felt like I was never a witness. I mean, I can recall, we're having a
Interesting.
conversation, so I can recall things, but I do not want to screw up this math to answer Nathaniel's question. I don't want to screw up this math. I think it was Dr. Janya Lalich. She keeps coming up in conversations. I think it was her. I could be wrong. Maybe it was somebody else, but they said for every year, somebody even in the comments might even know what I'm talking about. For every year you spent in a cult, for every 7 years you spent in a cult, it's going to take you, I'm already screwing it up. It's like screwing up a joke that's supposed to be funny. In other words, however many years you spent in the cult, give yourself 4 years of, give yourself a year of recovery. I think it's for every 7 years, give yourself a year of recovery. And it was interesting that when I did the math at the time, I remember I actually did the math at the time. I'm like, oh, I'm about right on time. It does feel like I was never in the cult. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Interesting.
I just butchered the
Yeah.
math on that, but
It's fine.
I
People
did
can
find
look it
that
up.
interesting.
People, we get the sentiment. Tammy says it's heartbreaking on how the doomsday cult of Jehovah's Witness breaks up families. Shunning is a form of blackmail that the leadership used to control their members. It's very sinister and cruel.
Yep.
I
I re
agree.
oh,
Go
I
ahead.
recommend exactly. I'm glad you used the term blackmail emotion because it's emotional blackmail. Anybody, if, some people may have heard of this book. It was a game changer for me. By Dr. Susan Forward, Emotional Blackmail: How People Use Fear, Obligation, and Guilt to Control You. Classic work.
Mm,
So that can apply to anything. It doesn't have to be about you can pluck religion out of the equation. That could just be an abusive family member or abusive relationship. But yeah, the
yeah.
fog, she calls it the fog. Yep, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's emotional blackmail.
Question. What's the most effective way to speak to Jehovah's Witnesses on the street corner about their bondage, specifically how they are in a cult? Will they hear us? I mean, I'm going to say no, because if you use the C word, people go whoop and don't listen to anything you have to say. I'm going to answer from my perspective, and I want to hear your answer, Bethany. I would say, out of all of the interviews that I've conducted, I would say 90% of the people on the show have left because of someone on the outside who was compassionate, someone who on the outside was accepting, was a friend, was a smile. Someone smiled at them on the road and they realized, oh, the world's not so bad out here. Because almost every single group, actually, I would say every single group, claims that the outside people are either bad, sinful, worldly, wrong, led by Satan, are Satan, you name it. And once they realize that's not true, things start to crumble because if that's not true, what else isn't true? So just being that kind, compassionate person, not being like, your group is a cult and you're dumb and you're brainwashed and did you know, da, 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 da. It will not help. It will not sink into their brain. They won't even hear it. They'll think that you are spewing anti name your religion here lies because they have already been told that when someone comes up to you and says that this is a cult, when someone comes up to you and tries to tell you that Joseph Smith used a hat to look to translate the Book of Mormon, that's all anti-Mormon, that's all anti-whatever. They've already prepped them for the people who are going to tell them the truth. So if you can just come at them with kindness and compassion, they will start to get curious, and that's the gold. Allowing them to get curious on their own, otherwise it won't happen. What do you think, Bethany?
Exactly. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I agree with absolutely everything you said. When Jehovah's Witnesses come to your door, granted, they're on your property, or if you're going to go see them at the carts, don't be antagonistic. They they believe if they're persecuted, they're doing something right. Do not
Yep.
persecute them. Don't give them the satisfaction. You can have a conversation, but and you can even you can discuss the Bible if you want, but just know you're not going to win. I mean,
Mm-mm.
they're not gonna wake up. A witness has to wake themselves up. But I would say if somebody comes to your door or you're gonna talk to them at the carts, be nice because that's gonna screw with their head, like you said, more than anything else. Because they're taught. Think about it. If you do it the other way around, they're just gonna feel attacked
Yep.
and justified. We are the true religion. We are the correct mission, or whatever words you want to use. We're doing something right because look at all these people attacking us. So no,
Yep.
be nice. Exactly. I'm right
That's
there with
the
you, Charlize.
adversary trying to squash the truth. I heard it
Yep.
over and over and over again in Mormonism. If someone is against us, that's just Satan, and that just means we're doing something right, or why else would they be so angry? I don't
Exactly.
know,
Bingo.
maybe because you slaughtered people and took a bunch of young underage girls as your wives, and we have reasons, but
Right,
yes,
right.
it's always the persecution complex.
Oh yeah,
Any other
absolutely.
questions? Let's see what
Everybody's
else. What
so
else we
cool.
got? What else we got over here? I love you guys joining us live. It's so cool to see you guys in the comments.
Oh, oh,
Noah
that's
says you've both
nice.
helped me more than I can ever tell you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Oh, thank you, Noah.
Oh,
I'm
that's
so
nice. Yeah,
happy to
thank
hear
you.
that. I
Yes,
love
yes, thank
it.
you.
Do they allow
Oh,
psychiatric treatment for people who need it?
that's a good one. That's a good one. Jehovah's Witnesses have been shamed. This is what I talked about in the interview. If anybody goes back and watches the interview, they show one thing in their literature in their Watchtower and Awake magazines. So you'll see something written that sounds, oh, this sounds fine. And then the
Mm-hmm.
culture of the organization within the four walls of the Kingdom Hall, when you go to the meetings, you'll hear their talks and you'll read other things that say, well, like, but if you, how do I say this? For years, like if you go back in their archives, I'm just going to tell everybody, if you go back in their archives, you find a way to like do a dig, you're going to find old articles that are like, that's secular wisdom. That's not wisdom from God. You just need to pray more. That's the gist. So they crap on therapy and psychiatry or whatever, like needing some outside help. But now they've reversed course. So now, if you look it up, it's pure gaslighting. They gaslight their own members, their own parishioners for
Oh,
generations.
yeah.
They say one thing for so long, and then all of a sudden do a complete 180, and then you're like, whoa, 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 whoa,
And
whoa. For like
never
40
say
years,
anything about it. And then they're like, well, we never said that. And we're like, wait,
oh, no,
here's
no,
the
no.
magazine. Would you like to read it
There's
yourself?
exactly. So now there's way more Jehovah's Witnesses in therapy, and they don't get crap for it. But
That's
I'm
good.
sure people, well, in the literature, it says it's okay if you go. If you're having mental health struggles, it's okay. There's no shame in speaking to a medical professional. There's no shame in seeking therapy, but you're still going to get crap from people. And your family or
Mm,
whoever is going to kind of on the side be like, because they're never going to admit, Shalise, they're never going to admit that they're possibly the problem.
yeah.
I'm not saying that somebody can't have a chemical imbalance or have a propensity towards anxiety or depression just as a separate argument. I'm just saying, um, you know, they'll never acknowledge that, oh, maybe it's all the doomsday prophecies and telling me I'm not good enough and the perfectionism and the shunning and the, oh, that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with my psyche. That's the part that gets me. So that's a good question.
Yeah, and you touched on it already. They tell you that you have a problem and they sell you the solution. And something that just came up, I don't know if it was an interview that already released or we're about to with one of the former white supremacists, but we were talking about how realizing that the group you are in is actually the poison trying to sell you the solution. And once you remove the poison, your life suddenly becomes better. But this whole time, you're like, why can't I fix it? I just need to go back. I just need to try harder. I need to do more. But you're just taking in more poison and it gets worse. And it's this cycle of why isn't it being fixed yet? If the problem is me and I just need to be better or do better or be more worthy or whatever it is.
Right.
But they're the issue. They're the ones breaking down your psyche. And you mentioned
Yeah.
PTSD. It is confirmed that CPTSD, complex PTSD, is something that is compounded over a long period of time, and that's what many people have after leaving high control groups. So, if anyone listening is feeling like maybe, I never had anything traumatic happen to me, but I was a part of this high control group. I'm not a therapist or a professional, but you could go check it out for yourself and see if maybe there's something there that has over time wired your brain in a certain way to make you think a certain way, react to stimuli in a certain way, and put yourself in fight or flight mode, which is CPTSD. So I think it's very valid to say that even if you don't have something crazy big happen to you in your life, you could still be dealing with it in a very psychological way.
Right. Exactly. It was actually I have I think her name is Meredith. I could be wrong. Somebody can Google her maybe. Meredith Friedman. I want to say it's Friedman. She did there was a peer-reviewed article that was just about Jehovah's Witnesses in therapy, and she covered how, like, yeah, I have a private practice and I saw a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, and these are my findings. And
Mm,
that was very like validating and inspiring when I found that back in 2017 or 2018. And it was just like some therapist in New York. And I didn't see any other literature at the time when I was going to school. I didn't see any other literature. There's things about the no blood policy and no blood transfusions. There's a lot of articles out there about like their stance on that. But as far as like mental health and going to therapy, I was looking for any kind of, any academic papers or anything like this. Is anybody studying this, or or just anecdotal? Like, hey, yo, therapists, do you guys got like? There's somebody actually here in town that's like, oh, I just got my first Jehovah's Witness patient, and I'm like, I'm not laughing because it's funny, but I'm just like, yeah, trust me, they need it. And I don't mean that like you need therapy. I mean like our wiring was just screwed, was just messed with. Anytime you're in a
mm,
cult, your brains are just scrambled. So,
yeah.
it works. Therapy works for some people, it doesn't for other people. Some people don't feel they need it. It's not a hill I'm gonna die on. It just, to push therapy, but it helped me. The one therapist, I had to go through a couple, but one therapist really helped me and like helped me get my footing when I left, when I officially exited, and she really helped me
Yeah.
get through the tears and the I can't believe this is happening, and she helped me stay firm and really taught me how to maintain boundaries and
I think
be
if,
productive, be not productive,
yeah.
constructive. She gave me constructive feedback. It wasn't just crying for 5 years about the situation. It was like, how do I move forward with my life? And she equipped me with those tools.
I think if there's anything that therapy can do, and this is coming from someone who's never had a good therapist, so take this with a grain of salt, but I feel like what therapy can do is at least provide validation for what you've gone through because cults invalidate your feelings at every turn because they don't want to admit that, again, they're the problem. And so having someone look at you and say, yes, you've experienced trauma. Yes, this was a form of abuse, is just so healing and validating and making you feel like, oh, okay, I'm not
Yeah.
crazy. There was something going on here. And even if you don't work through all the pieces or rehash everything or get to the bottom of all of it, just having someone look at you and say, I see you and I understand why you're hurting. and maybe we can work through this together or move past this now that you have identified the source of pain is so healing, in my opinion.
No, you exactly to your point. Yes, yes, lady, you nailed it. With
I haven't been
yeah,
to
I
therapy,
was
but
like,
I've talked to a lot of people who have. So,
no, no, but what, yo, no, but no, but you were so right, and you're so right. And what I was going to say is, um, as Jehovah's Witnesses, you're just, yeah, like you're saying, you're validated, but like you're shut down. You're not able to get your thoughts out. You're not able to just express your thoughts without somebody coming in and going, oh, no, 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 that sounds like apostate thinking. That sounds like satanic thing. You can't just be
yeah.
authentic and express yourself. So being able to just sit in a room on a couch or whatever, a nice chair, and have somebody like not interrupt you for like a stretch of time, that alone is like, I've never been in a room where somebody wasn't telling me I'm evil or telling me to shut up or that's kind of
Yeah.
that's healing in itself. Like you said, even if you don't get to big nuts and bolts about the situation, it's just kind of like having somebody just like not freak out on you. That's really healing.
And before we move on to more questions, I just wanted to point out if you are looking for a therapist, and this is from my own experience with bad ones, make sure you find someone who is licensed in religious trauma therapy. I don't know if they need a specific license, but is well versed in religious trauma and also CPTSD and those type of high control groups because you don't want, from my experience, you don't want to spend your entire session just trying to explain why something was traumatic. Like, guys, like, yes, this was traumatic because da 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 da, and then they're going, because then it's more invalidating. So, all of that to say, make sure you can find a therapist who does validate you and understands that world because it is something very different from just regular therapy. So, I just had to say that little
No,
tidbit. Any other
I'm glad you did.
questions?
Glad you did.
Share, like, and subscribe. Thank you, Letter Daily
No,
Digest. Sounds like a
I'm
fellow
glad you
apostate.
mentioned that.
Yeah. After you
Okay.
left, Jasmina wants to know, did you still have some fears based around Armageddon and wondering if you made the wrong choice during leaving? Also, thanks for sharing with us. That's a great question.
Oh, thank you. That is a good question. Thank you. Absolutely not. No, not scared at all. And some people do struggle with that. So I don't mean to like be like, oh, that's so silly. Like some people it really messed with them, but I never
Yeah.
really 100% really bought into it. It just so no, I had no fear about it. In fact, I was like, look, if it's true, I didn't believe it's the truth at all. But I was even in the back of my brain, I was like, even if it's fine, kill me. I don't want to spend paradise with you guys.
That's
That's really
funny.
my answer. I was like, if it means being with you guys, like just like super rigid worldview and just this oversimplified, how do you know that's paradise for me? How do I like you know? No, I was not afraid
So,
at
am
all.
I remembering correctly that Jehovah's Witnesses don't focus on hell? They just focus on Armageddon, which would be like burning in hell if you don't
Their
get
own hell.
taken to the city. Okay. So
Yeah,
you didn't have a fear of going to hell.
no, they don't believe in hell. They don't believe in
Okay.
hellfire. And that's one of the
Okay.
things, Shalice, that they actually wrote people in. They're like, oh, Jehovah would never, a loving God would never put anybody through hellfire. So a lot of people who grew up with a fear of hellfire were like, oh, Jehovah's Witnesses
Great.
provide hope. This is like, yeah,
Yeah.
I feel free now. So, but then they threaten you with Armageddon and never seeing your family again. So like, give me a break.
It's like kind of the same
It's
thing.
laughable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mormons don't believe in hellfire either. It's outer darkness. So I remember
Oh,
when I first,
okay.
yeah, like floating in space where you can't see anything just for time and all of eternity. So I remember thinking,
Interesting.
because I grew up with this idea that they shoved down our throats at every turn of it is better to have lived and never known the gospel than to have known the gospel and turn away. Because if you know the gospel and then you deny it, you are now an apostate and you will go to outer darkness. It's not like maybe you'll get to the bottom tier of heaven. There are three, according to them.
Right.
You're just on the slippery slope to outer darkness forever. And that was the thing that got me a little bit because I was like, It's made up, right? Joseph Smith was just doing a thing. It's made up, right?
Right. There's
Because
just like some,
there's
yeah.
so the stakes are so high once you're in it. And I've heard comedians joke about missionaries coming, because Mormons have missionaries too, going to their door and knocking and being like, "Well, now that you know about the plan, you have to accept it." And the guy's like, "Wait, so if I don't accept if I don't accept your gospel, then I'm going to outer darkness?" And the missionaries were like, "Well, yeah, because we just taught you about it." And he was like, "So I was in a better position before you showed up at my door, before I knew about you guys. I was gonna go to heaven until you showed up."
Absurd.
So,
Absurd.
yeah, it's
You know what
tricky.
Jehovah's Witnesses call it? Like that whole thing that you just described. If you know it and then you leave of your own
Uh-huh.
volition, you're like a dog returning to its own vomit. How lovely.
Ew, what?
I know. I know somebody
That
I
doesn't
know
even make sense.
there's somebody who reads the Bible in the comments that knows what scripture I'm talking about. But there's a scripture that says you're like the dog that returns to his own vomit. Oh, I love you too.
Oh,
Thanks.
gross. Okay, two
Ah,
more questions
okay.
before we bounce out of here.
Sorry.
How do Jehovah's Witnesses feel about music? Is there music in meetings? How about musicians as a profession? Is it okay? Lighter question from a music teacher who believes in the healing power of art and music. Yeah, this is a whole
No.
topic.
Yeah, no, that's actually, thank you. Thank you. No, that's a great question. They do have music at their meetings. They sing, their music is that's a whole topic. They've changed because it used to be very like solemn and respectful in their eyes, and they used to crap on mainstream
Worldly.
Christianity like as their music's too worldly. It's like pop music, and now they became the thing they hate. So now they
No.
use very they're just like they look like any other church. But that's a great question. There are a lot of shout out to Scott Holman and he is a XJW filmmaker. He did
Oh,
a
yeah, we had him on.
documentary. Yeah, yes, exactly. He did a documentary, Witness Underground, about witnesses that got together to
Yes.
play music because it was their outlet. Ballet was my outlet for 10 years. And I connected to music in that way. So I don't play anything. I play Spotify. That's the extent of my instrumental talents.
Uh-huh.
But yes, yeah, absolutely. I believe in the healing power of art and music. And yeah, so that's a great question. And there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses who are finding ways to sneak that into their diet, so to speak, like sneak that into their life so that they have something, because without that creative outlet, they'd go freaking crazy, which they're
Yeah.
doing. So
Yeah.
that's a
Totally.
good one.
Great question. Okay, let's
Yeah.
see. One more. Noah, what's up, Noah again? Are there any tips you can recommend for making peace with letting family and friends go? Oof, that's a big one. I still have to interact with JW family and it steals my peace no matter how hard I try to keep calm. Such a great question. So hard. I'm sorry you're going through that.
Yeah,
What do you
yeah,
think, Bethany? And then I'll chime in on my thoughts.
yeah. And to making peace. I mean, you have to, yeah, that's tough. I'm sorry you're going through that and that you have to interact with your JW family and it steals it. Don't let them steal your peace. Have your boundaries. So I know boundaries is tossed around a lot. So if you're on a I'm gonna just be real quick. If you have to talk to them on the phone, just in your mind, just be like, if they start to raise their voice, if they start to pull out scriptures, just have your own personal boundaries set in mind that I'm not gonna let them oh no, we're not gonna talk about the meeting. Or if they speak to you a certain way, or if you have to go to their house, just bring your own transportation so you have a quick getaway. There's little things that you can do to protect your peace if you still have to interact with
Yeah.
them. That's a
Yeah.
good question. I actually have yeah, a lot of things to say about that, but just try to find little ways to just say, no, no, we're not going there. And you can be
Mm-hmm.
respectful towards them, but they need to be able to demonstrate respect and dignity towards you too. It's not a one-way street.
I think for me, having to interact with family who are still Mormon and most likely think I'm the devil herself with this channel,
Hmm.
I would say it's helped me to meet them where they are. So when you leave a group and you have to go back in it for any reason, for a funeral, for a birthday, for a whatever, and you have to interact with people who are still clearly in and TBMs or true believing members or TBM, true believing Mormons, I feel like it's really helpful to have the perspective of where they are. Because when you're out, everything's so clear. Oh my gosh, it's a cult. It's so obvious. How are you missing this? And it's easy to forget how you were in that mindset once, or if you've never been
Right.
in, it's easy to not realize the mindset that they're in. So, understanding that they have limited capacity for the way they see you, interact with you, talk with you, think about you, based on their beliefs, not them as a human, but as the belief system that is ruling their perspectives, understanding they can only meet you so far.
Right.
They can only react and respond to you based on their programming. And so if you go in expecting that and knowing, even if I said to them, what you're doing is really hurtful and why can't you just have a conversation with me? Chances of them having a true open and honest conversation about that topic are pretty slim based on where they're coming from.
Right.
So it's almost like, and I don't want this to sound infantilizing, it's going to, using this analogy, and I'm sorry, but like you're talking to a child who truly can't understand where you're coming from.
Comprehend.
Yes, and it's not to insult their intelligence. It's
No.
truly their limited perspective that they are incapable of seeing it another way until
Right.
maybe one day they aren't. And it's probably
Right.
not going to be that day that you talk to them. So just having that expectation in place, because I
Yes.
feel like the center of most heartache and pain and frustration is unmet expectations. When you go in with an expectation to have a full conversation about a pain or a heartache or something, and then they meet you with something different, that's usually what makes us upset. So having expectations that are more realistic based on where they're at, that would be my number one piece of advice.
Shalice, that is excellent. I want to make sure this doesn't die. So give me a second, and I want to make sure that in the last moments, my laptop don't die. Alrighty,
Yes,
just getting back
we're about
here.
ready to
Woo!
wrap it
Okay,
up. Do we have
just in
any final
time.
questions before we go, Jonathan, that you want to pop up, or comments from people who are joining us right now? Bethany, so happy to see you here. Big fan, says
Thank
Ivan V.
you. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Everybody, I appreciate it. All the kind comments, and I just want everybody to find the peace and happiness that they
Mm,
deserve, whatever that looks like to them.
I
I'm
agree.
sorry for anybody who's going. I really feel for anybody who's going through this because my situation is not going to look like another person's situation who might be in the comments. It's we as Job's Witnesses, we all experience this standard template, sort of the standard template. We all experienced meetings and preaching and that kind of thing, but and a lot
Hmm.
of the same tactics and manipulation and gaslighting, but still, like, my dynamics with my parents are going to be different than yours. Your dynamic with your auntie is going to be different than, so there's different variables. So I just wish good things for you, and I'm sorry that you're going through that. And but you deserve better treatment. Don't think that you deserve to be treated that way. Don't let them twist it around to make it look like you're the aggressor because you woke
Hmm.
up and you're taking a stand. I want to be clear about that. They can keep being Jehovah's
Yes.
Witnesses. That's what I told my parents. I love you. I just want you to show me the same dignity and respect that I'm extending to you. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying earlier, but that's really just the bottom line. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to make you stop being a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not attacking you, but they're not able to understand that part.
Yeah. Someone
So,
asked about former flat earthers. That would be very interesting. I I've gone rabbit hole a little bit. People that seem to have evidence against around Earth, and yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know if they all get together and talk about it. I don't know if there's some group out there that's like official group of people who believe this, or if it's just
I'm
conspiracy theories
sure
that everyone picks up. But that
it
would
might
be
be
interesting to
interesting.
look into.
Yep.
Anything else? Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
We love seeing you guys in the comments and asking your questions, asking questions so that we can answer them. And I think that's it. So make sure you go and subscribe to Bethany's channel, Stop the Shunning. The link is in the description. You can click on that, go to her channel, check out the interview we did together, which should also be in the description. It's also on our homepage under New This Week, our playlist. And anything else you want to add, Bethany, before we
I
sign
just
off?
I just thank you, Sherry. I hope your parents wake up. I can't wait around with bated breath for a miracle, but I appreciate the sentiment is what I want to say. I wish they would, and if they did, if my parents called me tomorrow, water under the bridge. I love you, Mom and Pop. If you're watching this, I love you. I would love you back in my life. I can't wait with bated breath for a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Sending big love. Thank you so much, Leora. That's a pretty name.
Awesome,
All right,
awesome.
guys, thanks for being here. If you want to support the podcast, the absolute best ways to interact with the post in any way possible, liking, sharing, commenting, all the free ways. Especially after the video is posted, it helps boost the algorithm to send it to more people who need to see this. And if you want to support further, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/cults to consciousness. We have some merch. I'm sorry for what I said when I was in a cult. You can find that at cultstoconsciousness.com. And we're going to Mexico. If anyone wants to come hang out with cool kids, it's going to be fun. I'm just claiming myself as cool, which is probably uncool. But it's going to be so fun. And we already have so many really awesome people signed up to come with us. So if you want to hang out with people, like-minded people, that link is in the description. And until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well.